Gotta be watching the
I
clock.
tell you what, in the history of like things to talk about before you kick off a celebratory episode of your nighttime show, I tell you what, we found it. We'll just leave it off there. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky's the Late Night Happy Hour with Ben Lyons, who you know from every special episode that we've ever done. Our first episode when we were with ESPN. I think our 50th episode with ESPN, our first episode as an independent entity, and now as we celebrate our 100th episode as an independent web program, which by my research, guys, we are the longest running independent web program in America.
Yes.
By my research.
Why not? Hey, let's toast to you guys. Let's toast some Channing Frye chosen family.
Ben, can you read this? Can you read this? Because I specifically chose this for you.
I wonder where you got that shot glass from there, buddy. You're welcome.
Ben I should drink real booze. Hold on one second. I'm gonna get real booze.
Ben hosted when The Long Shot came out with Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron, and our buddy O'Shea Jackson Jr. Ben hosted a screening of The Long Shot, which I went to, and this was part of the swag. I got this out just specifically for you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. So, cheers. A little Channing Frye wine to one half of the Kamenetzky. Salute. Yeah, The Long Shot.
That was good.
Enjoyable movie, but it seems like the promotional swag from that screening did better than the film. Like I've seen Tom Phelps in his jacket running around Venice. I've seen you with the shot glass now.
It's actually a legit good movie. Like the first 2/3 of it are hilarious.
Here's to the other half.
That says Mazel.
Yeah,
these are the shot glasses that my wife's friend gave her. So this comes from the Andy Cohen collection. I'm busting out the good stuff tonight. The Sincoro tequila.
Oh, you're on a little Michael Jordan tequila. I got a little Channing Frye wine, a little chosen.
I took it personally.
Well, this tastes like ex-Knicks winning championships. So something you smell. It's seasonal. It's every year. They have a new batch of grapes for ex-Knicks making the NBA final.
They're better winemakers than they are basketball players.
This year it's going to be Iman Shumpert and Noah Vonleh for Brooklyn.
So I'll be sipping on this. This is a good sipping tequila.
It's really good. That it's also a Jeannie Buss endeavor as well.
Right. This is actually what they gave.
Like tequila now, huh? Getting the spirits business.
When we had our liquor sponsor, this is what they sent us.
I was very proud of my man Fat Jew, who, as you guys know, started White Girl Rosé and Babe canned rosé, and on center court at Madison Square Garden for the matinee on Saturday, huge Babe billboards. And I was like, wow, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
You know, selling canned rosé. Did you ever think we'd have all this? Vince got the movie, you guys. Vince got the movie.
LeBron has only drank 2 of those bottles today. BK mentioned his issues on the pod. Have you noticed this, Ben? LeBron in like the last couple years has never missed an opportunity to remind everybody, I drink wine all the time. Like we're starting to think like this is actually a cry for help and like nobody gets it. Like he's actually trying to get people to understand.
Like everybody just thinks he's just a rich guy. Like look how much LeBron is flexing into his wine drinking. Kobe did it. Kobe wanted to call himself Vino. It didn't take because it's a terrible nickname and you can't give yourself your own nickname. And all that. But like what if we are missing the point here with LeBron?
Well, at least he's not bathing in wine. So Lakers fans have that because there's only one athlete in the history of the universe who decided it would be a good idea to take a bubble bath in a bucket of Pinot Noir, and that's Amari Stoudemire. Well, I am a little worried about LeBron if he's waking up in the morning with sore calves or if his fingers feel a little inflamed with all the tannins that he's consuming. I don't know. I think it's just like another level of rich guy stuff. Like I remember I did this job once with Mark Wahlberg, where we flew to Iowa for the day so he could sell some protein bars that he's an investor on with Draymond Green. And he had a wine guy who came with us to Iowa who just brought wine for the day. And that seems like a pretty cool thing to be able to put on your taxes. As your
it is, by the way, how you know you live in a house with like too many children. I just found bacon on the floor. Just bacon on the floor. Like this is from my kid who sits back here at school and like his snack today was some bacon. and it's just on the floor. I got floor bacon. Jesus.
You know, in the Lyons household, if you're finding any processed meats on the floor, it's been home invasion. Someone's been in the house.
So let the people know where you living these days, because you've been living something of we're going to talk movies later, and Nomadland is one of the big movies right now in the awards circuit. You've been living something of a nomadic existence right now.
A little bit. My wife and I got out of LA in the fall because it's crazy there, and we are kind of living that nomad life. So we've been in Utah, been out in Long Island, spending time with family. That movie, I'm glad you brought it up because it's the favorite this year. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but
not yet.
Oh, it's a beautiful film. Chloe Zhao, who directed a movie I loved a few years ago called The Rider, which was on Obama's list of favorite movies that year. It's same director, and she's going to win Best Director. But it's about this woman, Frances McDormand, who feels more comfortable living in these camper communities, and in her trailer, her camper, she bounces around from campsite to campsite. We're not quite there yet. We're not quite living out of the camper, Andy, but there is something beautiful and kind of spiritual, the idea of connecting to the land and returning to nature and living off of the land and living in community. And these are things that we've sort of devalued in our society in recent years. And that's what the movie speaks to. And it's all unknown actors pretty much, except for David Strathairn and Frances McDormand. I'm always so amazed that they're able to get such great performances out of people who don't do this for their day-to-day job. They're just a park ranger or, a campsite director, and they're holding their own with Frances McDormand. I almost feel like when that happens, it's more pressure on the actor to get to their level of authenticity, because that's all those people know. She works at Amazon at parts throughout the movie, so she's sitting around with the Amazon workers, and they're real Amazon workers. And it creates this really authentic, beautiful experience. So Nomadland is going to win Best Picture, I think.
This is unquestionably, we're going to, we'll do this now. We're going to talk about it later anyway. This is the strangest year for movies, certainly of my lifetime, and probably of anybody's lifetime. I don't know what the deal was during like World War II or something like that. Like maybe what is it going to be? Like, we've seen some Golden Globe nominations. Like, what do the Oscars mean in a year where literally nobody has seen any of these movies?
Well, it's so crazy, Brian, because it's such an unusual year, not only because the movies weren't coming out in theaters and people couldn't go to the theaters in the same volume that they had in the past, but it's also like this convergence of streaming, getting a seat at the table was already happening.
Big time seat at the table this year, man.
Was already happening. And you had Cuarón knocking on the door a few years back, and The Irishman getting in the mix last year. And you're getting closer to having the streaming services finally recognized and getting the same type of, artistic credibility, if you will, for the filmmakers who decide to take their work there. Well, now it's big business, and it's the only way to see these movies. So now the movies like The Five Bloods and Ma Rainey, they've got an advantage because they're part of Netflix and they're out there. And the Warner Brothers films that are going to HBO Max. You saw Judas and the Black Messiah platform at Sundance, which mostly Oscar movies do for like the following year, not 6 weeks later. So it's a total clusterfuck. Like, it's all over the place. And the real thing that is unfortunate is not so much just about, well, how these movies will get out there and will people honor them if they see them for the first time on Netflix. Award season in Hollywood means so many people get to eat.
Yeah.
Stylists, caterers, bartenders, publicists, all the events leading up to all of these ceremonies. That's really the lifeblood of so much of the town. And that's gone this year. It's just condensed, or it's different. And that's what's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's funny, like you say, get to eat, people like it both literally and figuratively, but like it is like sports. Like, when you think about all, why does it matter if they play the games? They shouldn't do it. They this, that, whatever. Like, you do forget there's an economy that is built around all of this stuff. And when there's no production, and there's a ton of, I don't want to say, like, I don't know the science well enough to understand the, indoor versus outdoor, and should you allow production and all these other, but like the amount of stuff that gets crushed in this town because you can't do Hollywood isn't just, oh, actors don't get to work. It's all the caterers, all the grips, all the way, like there's a whole economy of restaurants and businesses that are around the studios and coffee shops that don't get revenue when there's no production. It is important to remember that, like you say, award season supports real people doing things.
You ever try to go to a Dodger game on a Monday night and get over like Hollywood and Highland area, and you're just stuck because there's some premiere of some Smurf sequel, and you're like, I'm trying to go watch the Dodgers, right? Well, that's a whole night for security guards and drivers and makeup artists and reporters and camera crews, and that is adding up, and that's something you miss with the award season. But also, I always just say, if you guys have another like method or another way that a Korean, language film about classism can get in 3,000 screens and have the whole country talking, like, please share with the class. Like, we'll take it, because that's the purpose of this thing, right? Is for these smaller artistic minded films and lesser known performances or actors to really get out there and get some eyeballs amidst all the Avengers and Wonder Woman. So now that that's happening on Netflix a little bit and Amazon and streaming services, I think that's better, and the awards season won't be as paramount in order for that to happen. But I mean, how else are you talking Minari if it's not getting awards attention?
Well, I want to get to that in a second, like the idea of the effect on these awards and sort of like the effect on the way we see them. But when you're talking about something like Parasite, what you're referring to last year, Korean language, foreign language film winning Best Picture, which made Oscar history last year, like, as much as I don't care about the Oscars in terms of the ceremony, like I do care about it as a marker of Hollywood history, because I do think it's something that we look back on if you care about this sort of stuff in terms of gauging, not just Hollywood taste and trends, but cultural tastes, things like that. But one of the really cool things of like the last 10 years that I really remember from an Oscars, maybe even longer, is the reaction of all the people from Parasite winning over and over, and how just genuinely excited they were and happy and grateful, and the experience that they felt. And like that's one of those moments that makes me wish that there can be an Oscars, because like most of the time, to be honest, like I'm happy for the people who win or whatever, like these stars, it matters to them. And a lot of them are serious about their craft and whatever. And it's great. But, some of these celebrities, I don't necessarily need to see them give a speech. I don't particularly care. By the time they've gone through the Oscars, and Ben, this is something you and I have talked about, a lot of them have won over and over. They're giving the same speeches over and over. People have seen these speeches. So a lot of it, the effect of it doesn't resonate the same way. But moments like we saw last year with Parasite, remember all the people from Fury Road, like the crew from all the tech people, like running up on the stage, and they were basically like they looked like a bunch of bikers.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah, George Miller and his whole crew and team.
Yeah, those people.
Let these guys in. When you think of Parasite winning, you're talking about it last year. I did the Oscars, which were a year ago tonight. Mm-hmm. Feels like 20 years ago. I did them with Stephen A. Smith, who had some insights on Parasite. You had people inside the house and you had people outside the house. That's what you saw.
But like that's the sort of thing.
I gotta be honest, Quentin Tarantino was wrong. I gotta be honest. You had Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. What would he want? I mean, it's a perfect movie.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Parasite. But once upon a time in Hollywood,
they were inside the house, they were outside the house. That's what you saw. That's what he said.
Crab Rangoon and things of that nature.
It's actually funny. Like Stephen A., my experiences with him, there haven't been that many, but I've worked
Oh my
with
God. And to work with him at the Oscars was just like such a crazy experience for me last year. And
my experiences with him actually are, he's very quiet off air. Like when he's not doing his thing, and he's got a really big, boisterous, engaging personality. And, he is really good at eliciting reaction, all that. The minute the mic goes off, the red light goes off, pretty quiet.
Yeah. And it was cool last year to be with him in that environment. Remember, it's pre-COVID, right? It's a traditional Oscars. And, that's the Super Bowl of Hollywood. That's just the energy. And, he'd been at many live sporting events, obviously, but for him to be like, whoa, this is different was kind of cool for me to see, because I've done it, 15 times or whatever. And I have the weird feeling of it feeling like small and manageable, and I know my way around, and it's the most uncomfortable place on earth. Everybody on their best behavior, like sweating in tuxedos at 3 PM. But I don't know what it's going to look like this year. I haven't talked to anybody yet in terms of what the coverage will be, if there's going to be some type of ceremony, an event. Yeah, who knows?
The optics of it would be awful.
Of actually having a real event.
Well, I mean, look, the Emmys did something on screens and had people like.
Oh, that was the best when they sent the people in the hazmat suits to everybody who got nominated, and they just stood outside their door, and if they didn't win, they just left with the award. That was brilliant.
That this year, but it's so great for these smaller films. Like I mentioned, Minari, like this another Korean film. Like this film's incredible. It came out of Sundance last year, and hopefully gets a Best Picture nom, or is going to be up in screenplay and some of the acting categories, and like. How else do you do that without some award shows? And you're so right, Andy. Like when we were kids, the Oscars was like a novelty to see your favorite movie stars hanging out with each other, like away from their roles, away from, press and stuff. But now it's like they do it on Instagram all day long. So it's no longer like getting a window into connecting with them.
The movie being John Malkovich wouldn't make sense now. Like the idea of like paying money to go inside John Malkovich's head for 10 minutes. Like you get the whole celebrity experience now from free. Just like sign up for social media.
No, you can go on Ryan Reynolds' social media accounts, live his life, and you can pay the Wi-Fi company that he owns to do that. Do they sell you wireless or something?
The genie's not going back in the bottle with this, though, right? In terms of like the role that streaming services play. Like, I mean, I think we had Stephen Falk on, who the creator of You're the Worst, and I think he's like a lot of people who think that once people are allowed to go places and they feel safe, there will be a desire for communal experiences. People will want to go back to the theater for a lot of stuff. Like you're going to want to see the next big Marvel movie just because you miss getting a gigantic bucket of popcorn and sitting in a movie theater. You want to go to the game because you miss being at a game and like being allowed to be at a game. But like the age of, it's not like streaming services or, like Netflix for, movies being nominated for, but like, that's not going away. Like at this point, you're not putting that genie back in the bottle.
No, as much as I love Sundance, you guys know it's my happy place. Did it 15 years in a row. This year they went entirely virtual. They had some pop-up satellite cities and drive-ins and stuff, but it was all virtual. And I watched a bunch of documentaries on my computer here in Long Island, and it definitely didn't have the same feel of Sundance. I didn't get sick. I always get sick at Sundance, right? But the idea that if I'm some kid who loves film and I live in suburban St. Louis and I can watch movies now at Sundance because I can't afford to go or I'm not working or whatever it is, that's amazing. And I think that only helps independent cinema get out there. Remember like short films, if you saw something, you couldn't find it ever again. Now there are all these different platforms where short films live and they can get out there and be streamed. And I think it's just better when you're competing against the Wonder Womans and Avengers and just all the big, action movies and stuff, which have their place too, but I don't know.
How do you think in terms of, we're seeing we're seeing the Golden Globe nominations now, SAG nominations. We got Oscars in about a month. How do you think you can even gauge what resonates right now? Because it feels like basically this is just being left up to like a small group of people, because audiences I guess you can tell to some degree by either knowing what's been downloaded or engaging what's being talked about on social media, but it's still a pretty small corner of movie going audiences. And like the idea of trying to figure out what resonates now, but also what will resonate, forget 5 years, 20 years from now, like next year, I think is a really fascinating thing to try to figure out.
Yeah, and it feels like culturally the limited series, Queen's Gambit, The Undoing, that is of cinematic, quality, movie level quality for that limited series seems to be the real sweet spot right now and what kind of grabs a hold of the culture.
Well, that's a whole different, especially really see like that's the other side of it, because the one thing that we've all been able to kind of do communally in during the pandemic is binge watch shows and like kind of collectively, because the people who are putting those out are like, get them going, like get those things, like nobody's holding material back. If it's a TV series, they're all trying to figure out, should we hold it back if it's a movie? And so we're getting a lot of high profile stuff, and we're getting The Mandalorian, and we're getting Queen's Gambit, and now WandaVision and all this other stuff like that's where people are kind of centering all of their entertainment. Like the Golden Globe nominations for the TV side, I think will get a ton of debate and a ton of argument. And then the movies, it's gonna be a giant shrug emoji.
Well, but that's always been the Golden Globes. I mean, they nominated Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp for Best Comedy for The Tourist, which was not intentionally funny. So with those wackadoodles, like I love them. They're nuts. But they are a small insulated bunch. There's always like a joke, or anytime you're at a Hollywood Foreign Press conference, no matter what the film, it could be The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds, the aforementioned, and Sandra Bullock. They ask a few questions without fail. Always somebody in the group. Excuse me, what do you think of Beyonce? Just the Globes are never an early prognosticator for Oscar glory. I always look at the
I don't even mean in terms of who's going to win. I just mean
right.
that question of what resonates right now. It's TV and it's not movies.
Zeitgeist, you're so right. Like how much more conversation was there around Queen's Gambit than there was around A Promising Young Woman? Now, A Promising Young Woman came out of Sundance. Carey Mulligan. It's a dynamite movie. The movie rocks. Like it's pop. It's fun. It's culturally relevant. There's some great casting moments and cameos from Chris Mintz-Plasse and Max Greenfield, and different guys pop up throughout. If that movie had come out in a non-COVID world, Friday night, that movie's got some buzz on it. It's a great date movie, crowd pleaser. You would have felt that presence in culture. You would have felt Carey Mulligan on all the talk shows and everywhere. You don't see it now, and it's going to get awards attention, but how does that translate into business? Everybody's trying to figure this out. But you're so right, Brian. It's like the TV, the limited TV, like that's just how you grab the cultural conversation, which now is so loud with TikTok and the president and the former president and sports and all these things that, 90s and 2000s movies didn't really compete with.
Well, also too, I mean, the stream, we've all been living like dependent on our streaming services, and that's where these shows are living anyway. So, and like it's not like people have been gravitating towards conventional television. It's all been towards this one place. So I think also too, just the effect of that.
Speak for yourself, man. I'm deep into all my CSIs.
To be honest, I tried. I gave Queen Latifah a shot the other night. I gave The Equalizer a good chance.
Feels
back next week.
A little too close to even just The Equalizer 2. Like I needed to let this thing breathe a little bit. The Denzel Equalizer.
I'm not sure I could name 8 scripted shows currently airing on network television. I'm not sure I could name them.
This Is Us.
That's
one.
Right.
Which yes. one of my friends from high school is on that show. I've seen it like twice.
911, FBI.
Yes.
Just call out institutions.
That's true. That's true. Blue Bloods. Our mother loves Blue Bloods.
Isn't that like a show? Chicago PD. Just call out.
Yeah. There's the.
Oh,
fire
you know what? There's
show.
the emergency room show on Fox that another friend of mine is on. Like I think it's called 911.
And there's different cities for 911 too.
Yes. Yeah. One of them has Rob Lowe in it.
Water and Power is a good show. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I wanted to actually ask you, because we were talking
Water
about
and Power. LADWP.
Worst
out institutions.
We were talking before about what resonated and what does resonate, and trying to gauge that. And I thought it's interesting how halfway through 2020, it felt like Delroy Lindo was a lock to win every single award for his performance in The Five Bloods, and he's phenomenal. It's an absolutely fantastic performance, and thus far he's not been getting a lot of recognition. He's barely been getting nominated for anything, which again speaks to sort of the idea of how how do you even define momentum? You know, how do you try to build on it? Because if you're Delroy Lindo, you can't do the circuit the way you normally would. But we've also seen too, like Chadwick Boseman has been getting double nominated for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom for Best Actor and his role in The Five Bloods in supporting. Do you think it's possible? Because I think he's going to get nominated for Oscars for both. I think it's a given that he's going to end up. Do you think it's possible that he could win 2 posthumous Oscars?
I do think it's a possibility. You mentioned Delroy Lindo. That film came out top of 2020, early in the race. Some people use that strategy now. At the time, the race wasn't expanded in terms of the calendar. So films like Judas and the Black Messiah, film like Jared Leto and Little Things, which was a Warner Brothers movie that got pushed. Things got kind of moved around and shuffled a little bit. So that kind of changed the release of some stuff. But I think you're absolutely right that Chadwick's got a real shot. He's tremendous in both.
Yeah.
They're both incredibly memorable performances. We've seen this before in Hollywood, obviously with Heath Ledger.
But never, I mean, it's extremely specific that, that somebody would die this soon to, a really, really good performance, much less 2 of them. Like you said, Heath Ledger, I forgot his name from Il Postino. There have been a few people like that, but the idea of winning 2, I mean, it would be a really
look. Sacha Baron Cohen's in the conversation with 2, with 7 and Borat, and oftentimes you'd see Amy Adams or Kate Winslet or people like that over the years.
Holly Hunter when she won for
I haven't seen any of the movies, which is I think part of relevant to what I'm about to say. In a year like this, where most people haven't seen the movies, the sentiment towards Chadwick Boseman, I think, is going to matter more than it would in a different year where there were 200 studio movies and everybody was out in the theaters, and like you could see a lot of these other performances. In a year where nobody has really seen them, and you almost have cover to just go out and honor the guy for what would have been this career that obviously was cut short. I'd be almost surprised if he didn't win 2.
Well, both the films on Netflix, so they do have a chance to hit a wide audience. But you're right, the sort of voting body is seeing films in such different ways this year. Whether it's they're getting screeners, they're not going to as many screenings, they're not catching as many films on the festival circuit. So yeah, and I think you guys, look, we got films this year from David Fincher. We got films from Spike Lee, from Chloe Zhao, from Sofia Coppola. Like, the auteurs are still working at a high level, and thanks to the streamers, they're getting the funds to bring their artistic visions to life in a real way. However, one of those is a period piece in black and white, Fincher movie, not really zeitgeist grabbing like The Social Network. Or Gone.
Or the way it was just expected. I think there was an expectation that Mank, the movie you're referring to, was going to end up sort of grabbing people more than it actually did.
A black and white period piece, it's hard to grab the culture like that. That's why when they were able to win a Best Picture for The Artist, it's a tremendous accomplishment and just like a textbook campaign, from top to bottom.
I don't think movies do that. There's an expectation.
Yeah, you're like a really as dialed in a guy. You're into media, sports. You've got family commitments, but like, there's no movie that's making you put all that on the side right now and say, you know what, I got to stop everything.
Because it's a one-time thing. Like the expectation that you can put movies onto a streaming service and have them kind of hit and almost go viral in that same way. And in terms of that big conversation, it's just not the same. People don't talk about those things as they do the binge watching series, as they do, Mandalorian's starting now, WandaVision is starting now, like with that sort of communal thing, because it takes time for everybody to, some people are 5 weeks behind and they catch up and you got to go, all that does not happen with movies in the same way.
Also, with awards now, you're in it for the long haul, 5 months at least. Delroy Lindo, like we talked about, is February of last year, I think, or that's That's a year of talking.
It was the earlier part of the pandemic. I don't remember exactly when it came out because I remember I watched it early in the pandemic.
Yeah, so you're coming up on a year of talking about this.
We are, by the way, you talking about a year anniversary or something. We are almost 1 year away from Rudy Gobert Day.
Coming up, yeah,
that's right. March 11th, Rudy Gobert Day.
Was it a year ago today? We were at the Oscars. Like, talk about a COVID hotspots. I mean, geez, the idea of how many people's hands you shake and say hello to, and people in small spaces, like, it's crazy. Like I said, it feels like 20 years ago. But the idea of grabbing like a hold of the culture and stop what you're doing. You have to watch this movie and then talk about it, and
doesn't work the same way.
Tough, like One Night in Miami, for example, is Regina King directing this great story of all these iconic figures coming together for one night. The themes are so relevant to today with athlete empowerment and controlling the narrative through media. But it's a 5 or 6 month campaign for Amazon. So it's tough to eventicize it. It's tough to say, hey, everyone, this weekend, we're talking about this movie, and you're going to see the New York Times profile piece, and you're going to see Regina on the talk shows. Like, she's hosting SNL this week, but that movie came out 2 months ago. And does it feel like everyone's seen it yet? Not really. It doesn't feel like it's.
Does it feel like everyone's seen it? Doesn't feel like anybody's seen it
yet.
Yeah. How many people do you think know that movie exists, Ben? Like,
And then
I don't mean that as a slam against Regina King. Like, it's the time.
Sending me Mai Tai, like, make your own Mai Tai at home, inspired by the movie One Night in Miami. Like, I don't think Malcolm X was just hoping that if someday people would learn his story with a Mai Tai. Like, these studios get out of control marketing these movies to all of us, the voters for the Critics' Choice and Globes and SAGs and things. And it I think deteriorates and loses some of the actual meaning of the movie when you get, a box of chocolate edamame from one.
Are you a voter?
I'm a voter for the critics. Yeah. For the BFCA, which, I mean, it's a nice meal at the airport hangar in Santa Monica.
Well, okay. That reminds me, so last night we had Zach Harper on from Cinephobe, and he told the story of you and when he was hosting with Amin, his show that he does on Mad Dog Radio. They were doing, and they came across a review that you wrote. I forget the movie, but you wrote. They read one of your reviews for Cinephobe, and you called in and talked about it. What is your style of movie criticism? Because I find movie critics to be fascinating, and like, especially when you do Cinephobe and things like that.
Yeah,
the delineation between the critics who are clearly keeping an eye on the terrible movies so they can get their name on TV, because none of the other good critics will give it a good review, so they know they can be relied on, versus so like, where did you come down? Like, what kind of person are you with this?
When they called me for that, I thought it was going to be on some gotcha shit. I thought they were going to be like, what did you say of this movie in 2008? And I'll be like, I don't know. I was 27 and just trying to hang on every day. Like, what did I say? I think I was actually right about the movie, but I forget what they were saying it was, but it was some rom-com or something. My thing is has always just been, is the movie honest? If what its intention is it a thriller? Is it supposed to thrill me and have me on the edge of my seat? Is it doing that? Is it supposed to teach me something about history that I didn't know anything about? Is it informative? Like, oftentimes movies people's opinions about movies can get tricked up when that's not what it's supposed to be. That's not its intention. It's intended. All movies can't be all things to all people. So you have to understand what the intention is behind the film. And I've always thought, for me personally, guys, like, it's not rocket science. I'm not a movie nerd. I'm somebody who has interests outside of films. I have somebody who has interests in all walks of life. And I can bring that to my movie experience.
I would actually disagree with you, Ben. I think you are a movie nerd. I think you present it differently than a lot of other movie nerds. But I actually think you are a much bigger movie nerd than frankly you put out. I mean, because like,
nerd alert.
No, but we've talked about this before. The early part of your movie criticism career, like, you took a beating for a lot of it. I mean, you've talked about this before. It was not well received.
Let me get some more chosen family there. 1 second. Yeah.
But I think what wasn't apparent to a lot of people, in the way you were criticized, is just how much you actually care about this stuff. and like how much you really love movies. Like that's sort of like when Brian and I knew we were going to bring this up with you a little bit, I went back and read some of the other stuff, and I was like, man, I don't think like you may not have liked Ben's presentation or whatever, but the amount that he loves this stuff and the amount that like he really relishes seeing everything he possibly can, like you can't overstate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. No, that means a lot. I'll tell you two quick stories to that end. When I found out on the ticker of CNN that our contracts were not being renewed for At the Movies, I was really bummed out, obviously, and afraid that I was never going to be able to talk about films ever again, or never going to get to cover these festivals. The next day, as fate would have it, I hosted a Q&A with Demi Moore at the DGA for a short film she directed on a stage in front of 500 people, whole thing. And I thought to myself, oh, they're not going to take this away from me. Like, I'm going to continue to do this to that end because I love it. And that experience of seeing a film, talking to somebody who made it, means a lot to me, and I'm going to find my way and navigate that. So I remember that. And then the second story, you said you looked up some of that stuff about me from back in the day, and a lot of it's really personal and nasty and mean.
Well, I would say somebody starting a website, stopbenlyons.com. that feels personal.
I mean, I regret it, but it felt right at the time. I mean, what do you want?
So one of those dudes, I would see places out and about for years, and he'd always run away from me, like full on run away from me, or move quickly, or just get out of the theater quick. And I never was confrontational or anything. And this year at Sundance, it was Sunday. It was the night Kobe died. Oh. And I ran into him on the bus at like 11 o'clock. And like the Sundance buses, they run all night, and it's the only way to get around sometimes. And the dude was just like, yo, I'm really sorry. And I was like, it's okay, man. And I hugged this man on the bus the night Kobe died. This man spent 5 years of his life transcribing every word I'd written about film and put my head on other people's bodies and just tried to destroy my life. And that is one of the more powerful moments I've ever had at Sundance, a healing moment of like, okay, the world just ended. It felt like,
yeah.
And let's
put all. It was surreal.
Your opinion about my opinion about movies, like it's not that serious at the end of the day. So I've had a lot of perspective on it as I've gotten older. I've realized that people don't often hate up, like people something like, or people don't hate down. Like it's easy to kind of like hate up at somebody. If people don't like hate up because they feel like real animosity, there's some kind of self-reflection in that as well, and it's like a validation of your spot.
Well, anytime you sort of punch in directions that like I don't get, like, you know, Shaq was taking credit tonight for the Jazz being like 20-5. You know, they come out, the Jazz played a great game again tonight. We can talk about whether or not we think they're legit and all that, but like the Jazz played a great game again tonight against Boston, who are good. I know, like the standard Laker fan joke was, you know, we won't know if the Jazz are good until they play a good team. Thankfully, they play Milwaukee on Friday. So, you know, the jokes write themselves, but like Boston's legit, and Utah beat them, and so they're 20-5. They haven't lost in like a month and a half. And Shaq went and took credit for it because he motivated Donovan Mitchell to play well by calling him out the last time they were on TNT. Like, Shaq is a guy who punches down, and he does it to protect his own space, and other guys punch, you know, up at people for reasons that don't seem to make sense. I mean,
look, I get it. And I'm like actually proud of the way I handled it when I look back on it, because a lot of people would have like gone off the rails or been like really just nasty. And I try my best to be professional. And when they go low, we go high. And like I said, you know, 15 years covering Sundance later and doing the Oscars, like they didn't take that away from me. So
yeah, I think you're a film nerd. I don't think you present yourself as a film academic. There's a difference. And
look,
you know, I mean, look,
there's Ben on the left. Right there.
I mean, look, you know, I mean, for better or for worse. I mean, I don't know if you ever
trying to do a remake of that with Kristen Cavallari. That never happened.
No. There's a lot about the. I'm not going to pretend that I'm above Revenge of the Nerds because of the problematic elements, but There's a lot of problematic elements. Just leave it be. Just leave it alone.
Booger like burps though, like unedited, like from
Oh no! Look, there's some funny shit in there.
probably doesn't hold up to the to today's standards.
Basically, the 1980s for comedy is really cringeworthy
Kid
in a
who
lot of ways.
Academy when he was way too young to understand the jokes. And I actually had a nice conversation with my dad this weekend, who you guys know watches films, reviews movies as well for many years. And that he was like, honestly, Ben, like you've pointed out a lot of things in terms of representation, diversity, casting that I just am not aware of because he grew up in a different time. My dad sits there and watches these old Gunsmoke shows and old like Western. And he reviewed some old Charles Bronson movie came on that he loves the other day, and he's like, it's one of the great performances from like a non-native as like a native. I'm like, that's not a thing, Dad.
That's not an Oscar. What does your dad think of this?
No, he didn't recognize Travolta in the Super Bowl the other night dancing on TikTok.
Bald Travolta, yeah, perfect. This movie made John Travolta unemployable for like 4 years.
Yo, that dude, man, they got to come with the Travolta documentary, huh? What a life that guy's living.
Yeah, I
don't know how you could make that honestly with his. You could either make the dishonest Travolta documentary with his participation, or the honest one without him, just because of who's pulling the strings. But I'd watch.
Yeah,
I would watch.
I'm fascinated by people who have achieved a certain level of fame and then had it sustained over decades. I mean, that dude's been iconically famous for 40 years. That's exhausting. Like I marvel at that with people. It's this idea of more of your life in the public eye than not is really strange and interesting to me.
Yeah, I just watched that Bee Gees documentary on HBO, which was really good. I mean, it involved the Bee Gees, or really Barry Gibb. He's the only living one left, but he took part in it. And there are a few elements of it that I think are papered over. Not even because I think he was trying to be controlling, but like when it came to some stuff that was left unspoken with his brothers, it felt like it was too painful for him to really get into it on camera. But like the Bee Gees and Travolta and Saturday Night Fever, like it gets remembered so much differently now than what it really was like then. Like the Bee Gees music was so much better constructed with like these incredible, gorgeous harmonies and like complexities in the way the music was created that gets forgotten about because it got just lumped into disco, and a lot of disco had a silly element to it. Like in the same way, Travolta, like Saturday Night Fever, that's a dark ass movie. Like that is a rough, dark movie.
Speaking of music documentaries, I just watched 3 hours on Showtime on Tekashi 6ix9ine. Oof. That guy, no good.
But yeah, I mean, like Travolta in that movie, man, he's incredible. I mean, it's a really great performance, but that character does some pretty rough stuff, and the movie is rough.
I did a bunch of Travolta stuff when he did Hairspray. He did a lot of press for that, CinemaCons, junkets, things like that. And guys at that level, when they're doing press, like it's just so natural. Whatever crazy question the E! Channel was trying to get me to ask that I didn't and got in a fight with my boss about later, he can handle it. Like they didn't, a guy like that, they like love premieres and junket days and talk show appearances, and that's like part of being a movie star.
So Ben, we can't have you on without getting into a little bit of Knicks. That is why we bring you on.
Yes,
applauding you, Ben Lyons. Your guys are actually not having a bad season this year.
They did lose tonight to a pretty struggling Miami team.
Well, but that struggling Miami team is almost at full strength now, other than Dragic tonight. So, I mean, and the Knicks are not a great team, but they're moving. Okay, do you think they're moving in the right direction right now? Because this is a tough thing to say about the Knicks, Ben. You are, as we said, long-suffering Knicks fan, like literally his entire life.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, guys. I was thinking about this before coming on the show tonight because I knew we were going to talk about the orange and blue. And it feels like there's two types of Knicks conversations that are had. And I want to find the one in the middle for you guys. There's the national conversation. They're a joke. Rappaport screaming, Stephen A screaming, Spike screaming, Jerry Ferrara screaming, everybody's screaming. They're a joke. Haha, the Knicks are terrible. They're a punchline. And then there's also the like really nerdy podcast. I'm excited about Theo Pinson's development. Like, you can go down that rabbit hole, right? Nobody wants to do that. So I want to kind of hit you guys in the middle. And I think the way to do that is to understand what things the Knicks are doing well that other teams can actually learn from. This is remarkable. This is the fact that we're even in this place where the Knicks now feel like they can be the beacon of light for other franchises around the league. It's phenomenal. Here's the first thing. Don't pay the wrong guys. This is what the Knicks did for years, and they decided not to do that with Porzingis. And guess what? The dude still has only played one game in the month of April in his 5-year career in the NBA. He's missed time with Dallas, missed time in the playoffs. The Mavericks stink this year. Like, I'm sorry, but you move on from Porzingis, and they got draft picks. They got a pick that turned into quickly. They're able to flip DSJ for now Derrick Rose. Like, they've done a lot of good stuff off that Porzingis team. So I think other teams can learn. Don't just pay a guy because he's your guy. Make sure you pay the right guy. And then also, you can get value deep in the draft still. Like, their lottery pick, jury's still out. Emmanuel Quickly is going to make all rookie team. Like, he's been phenomenal. So other teams, there's value in getting a first-round draft pick from Markieff Morris, like from the Clippers. You get stuff when you get a first-round draft pick if you draft wisely. And then 3, how about let's bring in just like no knuckleheads, no fashion week. I know Tao's closed right now, so no Asian fusion food. Like, let's keep it professional. And Julius Randle's like a father, has a wife. Like, he's a grown up. Like, RJ Barrett is obviously professional, has been since his whole life. He's like a child prodigy. So it's like, let's take these lessons, learn from them. And let's not just give Chris Middleton $200 million next year, whoever is available, just because we can. So like let's have a little a little like prudence. Like,
here's what I think is fascinating, because like I was thinking about this today, because the Lakers are in a place where it's like, okay, we're all, it's what's going on with Anthony Davis's Achilles, like, but like assuming things like health. There's I don't find the Lakers wildly interesting right now, because I want to get to the part where it gets interesting. Like, I just 25 games in or whatever it is with the Lakers, I feel like I got the point.
Yeah.
Like, I know how good they can be. I know what it kind of could look like. And I want to get to the last 15 games of the regular season, the playoffs. There are other teams, like the Knicks are more interesting on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, you're having way more fun. It's much more interesting now to be a Knicks fan, and they're like, wow, it's a 2-point game in the 3 minutes to go in the fourth. I never thought this team would hold them under 100.
What are they going to do? Who's going to like wear the shot? How is this guy going to grow here? Like with the Lakers, so they got some stuff they got to work out. But I basically every game I watch is sure hope nobody important gets like a 4-month injury here.
Right,
like that's all that matters with the Lakers. Utah is more interesting. The Knicks are more interesting. Charlotte is more the Lakers are going to be fascinating, but they're not right now. I just want to fast forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a champagne problem if I've ever heard one. Like, it's nice for the Lakers to have to just be like, we don't have to worry about this and stuff. But yes, but for the rest of us on like a Tuesday night against Miami, it makes it exciting. And I feel like, for the Knicks, every player, Obi has been injured, so the jury's kind of still out a little bit on him. But every other player on the team, with the exception of Frank and Kevin Knox, has taken a huge step in the right direction. And like everybody is playing.
Kevin Knox.
They're playing.
Including this man right here, former Laker Julius Randle. Brian and I, very, very early, consistent believers in Julius Randle. We bought our real estate on Julius Randle Island before it was fashionable. Now that real estate's worth something. Wait, what do you think of Julius? Do you like him as a potential? I don't want to say cornerstone, maybe, because that might be too much. But he could be an all-star this year. He just turned 26. I mean, do you like him as a potential piece moving forward?
He's so much fun to watch, and you guys definitely. I would want to be your neighbor in Julius Randle Island. Unfortunately, the movies and TV shows I make don't make enough money just yet for the real estate, because it is all-star level real estate right now. Mike Breen was talking about that on the broadcast, and the fact that as a Knicks fan you just get Mike Breen on like the local broadcasts is
pretty cool.
Special. And then Randall plays like the 45-year-old dude in the park who hasn't lost all day. He's just like an old man like game, like prison pickup league game. Like he does stuff that he's like not supposed to do. Like he's strong. Their defense has been phenomenal. They're the number one defense in the NBA. They hold teams under 100 points all the time. I don't know if Randall's going to make the All-Star team, but he's definitely in the conversation. And
how does he not? He's averaging. I mean, not that this matters, but as a shorthand, he's currently ranked like 9th or 8th as the eighth most valuable player in my fantasy league. He's averaging 22, 11, and 6.
Amazing.
23, 11, and 6.
Aberration. He's been phenomenal if you're playing fantasy or DraftKings or whatever. Because Tibbs is like, oh, let's leave him in 40 nights. We only have a game in 40 minutes. Let's play him again 40 minutes tomorrow. I really like Randall, and they have him on a sensible deal. It's a team option next year, which they'll probably pick up, I would imagine. So I'm into this. Gone are the days of 4 years of Courtney Lee. Gone are the days of 4 years of Tim Hardaway Jr. We're still stretching Joakim Noah. Let's not get it twisted. But the days of like, oh, we didn't get LeBron James. Let's give Amari Stoudemire and his uninsured knees $100 million. Like that's gone.
I mean, that's got to feel good. I mean, are you daring, Ben, after everything you've been through, like in your lifetime, there has not been much Knicks success, and by much I mean like pretty much any. No. I mean, are you old enough to like
shaving? Not since I started shaving.
Do you actually dare allow yourself to think that this team is moving in the right direction? This franchise is moving in the right direction.
You guys forget, like, the pandemic distracted everyone from the fact that Spike Lee got kicked out of the Garden. Like, that's what was happening at the end of last season. So, yes, this team is going in the right direction because there was nowhere to go but up. Like, this team Porzingis is standing there on the free throw line being like, wait, who's Charles Oakley and why are they arresting him? Like, just so much ridiculous. You know what? I'm going to bring in Steve Stout to control like the image with this thing. And then he goes on First Take with Stephen A and gets crushed by Max Kellerman, which is ridiculous. So yes, I do think they're going in the right direction. They have more draft picks than any other team not named Oklahoma. They have no dead money. They have Dallas's draft pick this year, and Dallas stinks. So like they got a lot going for them right now.
I remember the kid in NYC points out that the Lakers renounced Julius Randle. Renouncing is my favorite thing in the NBA. My favorite thing in college sports is the transfer portal because I picture people actually getting in and like appearing somewhere else. But my favorite NBA thing by far is the renouncing of potential free agents. It reminds me very much of like, is it the Jazz Singer where like they turn their back on their son?
I have no son.
I have no son. Like I feel like that's what has to happen. We're like, I must turn my back on you, Julius.
Yeah, that's Julius Randle's new nickname is the Jazz Singer. Not
I renounce you, Julius Randle. All right,
so you have abandoned my child. You're like Daniel Day-Lewis and
there will be blood.
Abandoned my child.
There Will Be Blood goes in the box set collection of films I never want to watch again.
I actually just recently rewatched it.
Why?
I loved it.
No, it's tremendous, but I mean, what?
I mean, he's amazing to watch in it. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, that's really the reason. His movies, there's always something new you can find in them.
What's that, honey? Honey, you're going to go to sleep early? Oh, that's cool. I'm just going to stay up and watch There Will Be Blood.
I mean, the milkshake scene's actually pretty funny. It's fucked up, but it's funny.
No, it's a classic piece of American cinema. I get it, but unless you're going to study it just to be like in the mood,
like I said, I find
Oh, Laker game just ended. Why don't I put on United 93? You know?
No, that one's different. I feel like United 93. That's truly a see it once for the craftsmanship, and I don't need to see it again.
I went to the premiere of that film in Tribeca. Incredibly emotional. Bring out the families of so many of the people affected on that flight and on that day, and they had firemen and police officers there. And I'll never forget being at the after party and seeing one of the actors who played the terrorist at the shrimp buffet and being like totally freaked out and fucked up.
Weird. I remember before we get to the game Brian's about to bring up, I saw in college at USC, they had a screening of Schindler's List on a Thursday night. And like Thursday night was the big party night at USC when I was there. They had this screening. Afterwards, just an entire theater of college kids silent. And you could see everybody was just dispersing to go back to their apartments or dorms, and nobody was going out that night.
That, by the way, is why the Seinfeld with the making out during Schindler's List is still one of the funniest things ever.
Yeah. The After Dark was a little quiet that night, is what you're saying.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Oh my God, that was.
Hey, I know you guys wanted to play some game quick, but I would be remiss to not mention the legend Tom Konchowski, who we lost this week. I don't know if you guys have heard the stories about him. He's this basketball scout from the East Coast who for 40 years was the scout of record, didn't own a cell phone, didn't have a computer. He wrote a newsletter that he would send to every college coach in the country and was the first person at 5-star to see Mike Jordan and say, hey, that's going to be a star.
Wow.
And it was always a thing. Like when you met him, he would come to our games and scout, sometimes kids on our team, sometimes the other teams. He always came once a year. He always came to our gym. And you'd always have to go up to him and shake his hand, firm eye contact. Hello, Mr. Konchowski. How are you, Mr. Konchowski? That handshake. Like if you got a handshake and some eye contact from this man, it was everything. And the news broke that he passed away this week, and just a real basketball lifer and one of those kind of unsung heroes of the game. And just wanted to give him a little shout out.
No, I'm glad you did. I mean,
was he there to scout you?
The day he was there junior year, this is a great story. We played Fieldston, and there's a kid named Ariel Schulman. Ariel went on to direct some of the sequels to Paranormal and just did that Jamie Foxx movie Power on Netflix with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And Catfish, he directed Catfish.
Oh, wow.
I got a technical foul for punching Ariel. We got in a huge fight.
That was just a tech?
It was just, I got a tech. We got two double techs separated. The cowbell that got to me. Me and Rel were getting chippy. And that was.
Me and Rel.
Yeah. Hey, me and Konchowski showed up. That was, I felt 2 feet tall shaking his hand.
All right. So as people know, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show, it is our 100th episode. Thank you, Wilt, for honoring us with sending that in. Appreciate it. And in honor of our 100th episode and having you on the show, as we do for all special occasions, I have a game that is built around. Thank you. Built around. I was going to get balloons if I could, like those little helium balloons you line up. I didn't have time.
Not in the budget.
I have a game that's built around trivia around the number 100. So it's pretty simple. Some of them are your name is your buzzer kind of questions, and some of them are closest to the pin. And I will tell you before each question. And we'll just go from there. Pretty simple, pretty easy, and pretty quick because Ben's got to go to bed. All right. First question. Your name is your buzzer. 100 of these make up a meter.
Andy.
Feet? You are a moron.
Ben.
100 of these make up a meter.
I know the answer now.
What?
Millimeters?
You're closer than I am, though.
You're closer than Andy. At least you're on the metric system. Good job, Andy. The answer is centimeters. That is correct.
I don't get a point for that.
No, you do not. That was supposed to be one of the easy ones.
I know. I just blurted that one out. What are you laughing at? You were at millimeters. What are you laughing at?
I don't know.
Andy.
Yeah, I deserve that.
Is on the metric system. All right, 0-0, and we're on to Really, really bad start. Okay. A person, the name is your buzzer. A person who lives to be 100 can call himself this 5-syllable word. Essentially, it's a 5-syllable word for somebody who lives to be
Andy?
100. Andy.
Centenarian?
No, you added another syllable.
Oh,
Ben, I was going to say centennialist, but I don't think that's the word.
Centenarian is the correct answer to the question.
Come on, man.
Originally, I had it phrased: a person who lives to be 100 can call himself this, and all of you would have just said old. That would have qualified. All right, name is your buzzer. The 100th day of the calendar year falls in what month?
Ben, April.
Nice job, Ben. That is correct. April 10th, to be specific.
And only on one of those days in the last 5 years have we seen Kristaps Porzingis play basketball.
1-0 Ben in 100 trivia. Wow. Name is your buzzer. This is the square root of 100. This number, Ben, he whispers, say it with confidence,
I know
man.
I actually know it.
Ben 10.
Ben 10. That's exactly right. 10 is the square root. Andy, was that the number you had?
It is the number I had, for real.
I was going to say, be honest.
No, it was.
All right. This is here we go. In 1962, the Philadelphia Warriors beat the Knicks 169-147. Of course, it was the Knicks. This was Wilt's famous 100-point game. There he is. Al Attles was the team's second leading scorer that night, closest to the pin. How many points did he have? Andy, you go first.
14.
I would say 27.
The correct answer is 17 points. Andy picks it up there. Al Attles was 8 for 8 from the floor. Leading scorer from the Knicks that night, Richie Guerin, dropped 37 on the Warriors that night. Nobody remembers.
No footage of that game, huh?
Nope. No. Richie Guerin, by the way, 57 career high. Put that on the Nationals back in 59. Richie Guerin.
Chamberlain would have been amazing today, but would he have been like more dominant than Joel Embiid, or we just been like?
Have you seen the? Well, I mean, assuming he if you transport him from back then, you see all the old footage of him. He's very stiff by modern standards, especially waist down. I mean, obviously today he'd be trained differently and all that, but yeah, no, I don't think he would.
Crazy.
All right, name is your buzzer.
He started joking there, and he just didn't jump on it. He just saw the Wilt Chamberlain and the waist down joke, and he just didn't jump.
Yeah,
it's late. It's late night.
Just gonna let it sit there. I was waiting to see if Brian actually picked up on what he said, and he didn't. But it's okay.
I'm trying to get Ben to, I don't want to keep him too long. So I'm not.
I know, but I can see Ben smiling. Ben caught it too.
It was there.
We might not be. Are we talking about his bottom half now?
Stiff from the waist down, Brian. That's the way you describe it.
I'm starting to get it. Yeah.
He was with a lot of ladies, Brian. He had a lot of sex, Brian.
Because he was stiff below the waist. I gotcha. All right. Name is your buzzer with about
erections, Brian. Erections.
When a man and a woman love each other.
Oh, man.
All right. With about 200 more of these.
So 200. What do you got? Yeah. What did you say?
With about 200 more of these, San Antonio's DeMar DeRozan will pass Spencer Haywood to be 100th. Andy?
3-pointers?
Incorrect. To be 100 to pass Spencer Haywood in 3-pointers?
I don't know.
San Antonio's DeMar DeRozan will pass Spencer Haywood to be 100th all time in what statistical category?
Points.
Regular points. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Bonus question for Ben Lyons for getting that one right. Where is Steph Curry on this list? Get within 10 and you get a bonus point. Where is Steph Curry on the all-time points list?
Steph Curry all-time points list is probably top 45.
You are incorrect. Andy, you can steal if you can get within 10.
Damn.
I'm going to say 71.
You are closer. The answer is 99th.
Okay.
Steph Curry is 99th currently on the all-time points list.
And he hasn't really been doing it for 15 years. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right. Name is your buzzer. The United States currently has 100 senators, 2 for every state. This obviously wasn't always so. 100 years ago, how many senators did the United States have?
Yeah, I'm out. 100 years ago, 1921.
12. Sector Cruz says 12. No, that is not the correct
I'm gonna
answer.
say 44.
44? There were 22 states 100 years ago, Ben Lyons?
No, I'm just saying they had a different system. That's what I'm going with.
96, Andy?
That is correct, Andy.
Oh,
96.
look at that.
All the states except for Hawaii and
Alaska.
Alaska. Andy, a bonus point available for you. How many did we have
Not that
in
crazy.
1876?
100 years ago was that different, considering they didn't let like women and black people vote. So to think that they have like a different system is not.
No, they just use the same rigged system to hold down all those people.
Correct.
Right. I
You
didn't
didn't
think
need to revamp the whole thing. Andy, if you can get within 5, I will give you a bonus point. How many did they have in 1876, 100 years after the country was birthed? I'll even expand it to 10. How many senators were there in 1876?
70.
Very good. A bonus point for Andy, and we are tied up. The correct answer is 76. That is close enough.
Okay.
how many years before how many years was before America was founded was my school founded?
Oh my God, this is the bougiest question I think I've ever heard in my entire life.
I'm going to say 3.
150 years before America, they decided to have the collegiate school. So that's
Real man of the people you are.
and by people, you mean Dutch settlers. Yeah.
This I thought was fascinating. Of the 100 closest to the pin, of the 100 most commonly used words in the English language, how many have more than 5 letters? I will give you a hint, an uncommonly dumb people. Of the 100 most commonly used words in the English language, how many have more than 5 letters?
Ben.
6. How many?
6.
6. Ben says 6. Andy.
I feel I hope that's too low. I'm going to say 12.
The correct answer is 2. Because and person. That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
Dumbasses we are.
All right. Here we go. Closest to the pin. The longest car ever made was a 100-foot long Cadillac. It had a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, a helipad, and a hinge section in the middle to enable it to turn corners. This is how Ben used to drive to his fancy school every day. How many wheels did this car have? Closest to the pin.
Mom drove me to my fancy school every day.
Your mom drove that limo?
Mobile you're talking about there. I think that's a 28 wheeler.
Andy?
I'm going to say
I love how much more confidence you had answering that question than the square root of 100.
yeah.
I'm whispered that one.
I'm going to say 14.
The correct answer is 26.
Oh.
Which takes a 5-3 lead, and we have reached our final question. But Andy, lucky for you,
what a surprise! It's worth 3.
It's worth 2.25. Just enough to get you over the edge. We just finished over the weekend Super Bowl LV, or as it looked like on the field, Super Bowl Live. How many Super Bowls are we away from 100?
45, Ben. I thought you were going to say how many times you've been to Live. I'd say 55.
That is correct.
That is 45. The correct answer. Ben, you can really rub this thing in. When we get to Super Bowl 100, what will that Roman numeral be?
Be like a bunch of X's, right? Is that what it is?
Super Bowl XXXXX.
Super Bowl C. I was going to say that. I actually was going to say that.
There should be a line in Vegas of will Tom Brady be at Super Bowl 100? Is this a good bet? I don't know. I think he will.
I think he could make it.
Bring him out.
Super Bowl.
Brady. He could be strawberries long enough. Ben Lyons, congratulations. You win 7.25 to 3.
Let's get the spike clapping one more time, guys. Let's get the spike clapping one more time. Thank you.
Who retires first, Brady or LeBron?
Brady does. He's not trying to play professionally with his kids like LeBron is. I saw Brady's kids up on that podium. the kid's not playing football anytime soon. So I think LeBron's going to play with his son, which is like the coolest thing that's ever happened in sports. If it does,
I don't know how much. I mean, I know we just saw Brady win a Super Bowl, but he's 43 already. Like,
He says he wants to play to 45 at least.
I understand that, but LeBron, I think, is going to play longer than 2 more years. I feel like the answer is LeBron.
LeBron though, like drinks all the tequila and all the wine and smokes all the cigars, so Brady doesn't have to. Like he does enough for the both of them.
That is true. That is seriously true.
I know. Look, Ken Griffey Sr. played with Ken Griffey Jr., and that was really cool. And that does not get talked about enough as being like a tremendous accomplishment.
I think Bron is going to play with Bronny the Third.
Might.
Yeah.
Like, it's very possible that Bronny declines as an NBA player before Bron does.
No, you know what's really scary to think about? Like, if you think, let's say Brady came into the league this year and had a 21-year career, like where would you be in your life when that career is over? Like if his career started now and ended in 21 years, like
I just hope I'm alive.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like in my 60s. Like this is crazy.
Unbelievable.
I was
fucked up.
in
It's
college,
completely fucked up.
Brady, but if he did it this way, I'd be like AARP. Like,
yeah.
All right, dude. We have to let you go. It's like 2 a.m. where you are right now.
Hey, any chance to come on the show and catch up with you guys? I hadn't spoken to you in about 4 hours. So
it's true. It's true.
Up. I didn't drink as much.
We may talk again tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I get another bottle of this Channing Frye Chosen Family that he does not pay me to endorse. It's just delicious,
dude.
It's like green apples in the top of the sweat on Richard Jefferson's head. It's just delicious.
As always, man, we truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Congrats on 100 shows. I hope you have the square root of 100 more. So great to be on the show. 10
more. 10 more. We got a run of 10 more shows.
2 weeks, and then we get it.
We'll see how it goes.
By 111, it's overkill.
Yeah,
Ben sort of feels like we might be at the end of our run.
No, it's great to see you guys. Thanks.
All right. Thanks,
tomorrow night, Chris Johnson is going to join us Thursday. I just got to wait for the scroll to come by. Ricky Cobb from Super 70 Sports. We're going to get nostalgic on Thursday. That'll be a fun one. And then Claire DeLune on Friday. Some good stuff we're lining up for next week as well. Thanks again to Ben Lyons. We'll see everybody tomorrow.
Peace. John, you need a land.